And then we started in earnest with the first section of companies presenting various ABTs. Based on those ABT companies, the BRICS, Women Business Alliance, Max Living, SIGA, ReadyKit, and Moladi, we signed the Memorandum of Understanding with all those ABT companies. And already the MEC allocated municipalities where some of these pilots will be run. From there, we had a discussion panel with the diplomatic bodies from Russia and the Turkey embassy, who were committing to participate in construction in South Africa and Northwest in particular. We are going to continue with those engagements. We are aware that Maxim from the Russian embassy, trade commissioner, is a partner to BRICS Women Business Alliance. Therefore, we are already benefiting from them indirectly. The Hydraform, Ditsoho Group, AERA, and others. I think there were others, I will get the names, who pledged several units to the department. That contribution by everybody is heartily welcome. We as a department are conscious of the fact that we cannot deliver alone. We need to identify strategic partners and collaborate with them in order to do what we need to do to provide human settlements to the residents of the Northwest. Today's program is focusing mainly on the regulatory bodies presenting to us what they require for ABT to be acceptable and to be approved and accredited. We will start off with Agrima SA. I'm not sure whether Agrima SA is here, Dr. Nyamazana. Can I see by show of hand if the gentleman is here? Okay, he was here yesterday. We will then move and move on to the National Department of Human Settlements. You see, because he was a program director yesterday, he's still directing me even today. I am made to understand that the Department of Human Settlement National will be joining virtually. So, whilst they are getting ready, we will move on to NHBRC. I believe they are ready. NHBRC, some years back, was it in 2007? In 2007, I was part of that team that started this Eric Molobi Innovation Hub, where the minister then, Lindiwe Sisulu, invited various ABTs to come and establish in that hub. So from 2007, they have observed how the ABTs in that hub evolved. They are here to share the lessons that are learned from Eric Molobi and also let us know what is required of us if we want to participate in this environment of alternative building technology. From NHBRC, allow me to welcome Mr. Ivy Hartley to make that presentation. Mr. Hartley, the floor is yours. Let me also highlight to you, ladies and gentlemen, that today's program is going to run very fast like yesterday, and we will be moving items around to allow those who are here to present so that we are done by lunchtime. Thank you. Mr. Harvey, the floor is yours.
Just check. I think they've got. I think it's the other way now. Not the right one. Good morning all. My name is Isaac Vusi-Hartley. I'm just trying to fix a minor technical glitch. I think this is not the correct presentation. Wish if the technical team can quickly swap on the presentation. I had two, of which I was scheduled for yesterday and today. So yesterday we moved very quickly, so we couldn't present the ABTs. But in a nutshell, I'll just move forward with the presentation. As I said, my name, I'm working as an acting building specialist. Part of my major is to study the ABTs, how they perform within the province. It's in my, just can I quickly do it? Yeah, I think that's the correct one. Part of our job at Eric Molobi, I had an introduction that's similar to what the MEC has done. But part of our job at NHBRC, we are the regulator. So what we normally do, we protect the housing consumers. It means every builder has to register with us within the home building industry. And in registering, this confirms that the people who the houses have been built for have been protected from structural distresses, and so on and so on. So today I came to speak about the IBTs that we are building at Eric Molobi. This is an overview picture of Eric Molobi, whereby we have the training center and the laboratory. So all materials within construction can be tested at Eric Molobi. Should our inspectors suspect any inferior or need to test any building materials, we have the lab that we can use. So this is the introduction already done by the MEC. I will not repeat it. He exactly stated it as it is written, whereby in 2007, 10 July, the center was opened by the then minister. Now, at Eric Molobi, this is just a brief history of the man Eric Molobi himself, the struggles he went through in establishing this Eric Molobi Center at NHBRC. If you can check, is the year he was born, the whole in terms of his family, so I'm not going to go through in terms of saving time. And then from Eric Molobi, we have what we call Mathamolobi within the hub. The Mathamolobi is the training center, but the entire hub is called Eric Molobi. So within the hub itself, we've got a training center whereby we train certain skills. Yesterday I heard there were companies that were training. NHBRC is also offering free trainings within the construction industry. So that training is done through at Mathamolobi, as you can see the pictures and the conference hall. and the facilities that are there. Now, in terms of the directions, these are the houses that we built at Eric Molobi. All these houses are ABT. None of them is a standard material brick and mortar. You can see as if there's brick and mortar. Those are sandstone blocks, are not your normal bricks. So all these houses we built as a competition at Eric Molobi so that all ABT guys can showcase their technology and what they have. Then we have the external ones, because now the ones that we built inside Eric Molobi are unused. There are no occupants in them. So studying them will give you a different results as compared to when a house has been used. So we decided to take the lab outside and build within provinces. By building within provinces, it was able to give us the correct performance of each ABT because they don't perform the same. So at Eric Molobi, when you come in, you'll find a lot of dilapidated structures. We left them there to see how the degradation of materials behave in one climate. Because now in Eric Molobi, I think we are on zone 2 in terms of climatic conditions. So we subjected many houses to zone 2. Then we went outside Eric Molobi in provinces to build these houses so that we can also study how they behave. It is very surprisingly that some of the houses could not make the required results, but I'll show you how. Because as we look at them, new as they are, they look beautiful. But with time, they start to degrade based on certain factors. Others are affected by the climate, others are affected by the use, others are affected by the soil conditions, and so on and so on. But as we go through, I will just highlight what could be the problem. But the expected benefits in IBTs, because we're trying to solve the problem that we have in terms of energy, speed of construction, cost benefits, promotion of innovation. So we're looking at the challenge when we implement, how to improve skills. The other thing people say, IBTs are taking away jobs. No, IBTs, in fact, are creating more skills and are creating new jobs within the market. And also, the people who will be working in those skills are more in terms of endurance because now they're no longer using hard labor. So it becomes smart work. So that's one of the benefits of IBT. Now, what is important is the law. We, from the Constitution, are required to give adequate housing. Now, how do we define an adequate housing? Because now, a lot of people say we don't want RDPs, they are cracking, they are this and that. And if you look, it's not what the Constitution says. Now, we are established at NHBRC by the Department of Human Settlement to make sure that we deal with this issue of adequate housing. Now, the tools that we are using in order to create an adequate housing, we looked into what needed to be done and what is missing. If you can look at that house, it's a house that was built prior to '94. Unfortunately, some of our contractors are still building like this. I don't know how, but since the establishment of NHBRC, I don't recall we having a house like that that has been enrolled by NHBRC. But when you look at adequacy, when you say a house is adequate, it means there should be physical safety, protection against cold, dampness, heat, rain, wind, and other threats. And if you're looking at those things, the guys who are designing IBTs are trying to address those measures in order to create this adequate housing. And the other factors that we are looking at, being a statutory division of Department Housing, we're not working alone. We've got social housing, of which is the regulator with the NHBRC. We've got the finance department. We've got the HDA. We've got the estate agency board dealing with sales and so on of land and and housing. Then we've got the CSOS, where people can complain and resolve issues within the center. Now, on this one, as we talk about legislation, in order to give an adequate housing, we need some sort of a standard that we need to use. Now, in terms of the hierarchy of the South African ministries, we have the Department of Public Works, whereby the SABS, South African Bureau of Standards, is housed. It's not housed at Human Settlement. So from Human Settlement, we had to borrow the standards from the Department of Public Works, of which runs Agrima SA and SABS. Now, from the prescripts of SABS, there are certain laws which are compulsory that affect housing. So those laws, one of the laws is your standard, your Act 103 of 1977, your National Building Regulations. So we took out the standard there, and when we look also, we have another law that was established by the Human Settlement through the Housing Act, the NHBRC Housing Protection Measures Act. We have Act 85 of Health and Safety, and then we have the NRCS, the National Compulsory Standards. So those are the acts that affect housing. So if you are in the housing industry, you need to know a lot about these laws because you're going to use them on regular basis. So this is how we dissect the National Building Regulations. So its purpose mainly is to protect the general safety and health of the public. And then how does it do that? It refers to a regulation. The NHBRC also, in terms of the ministry's directive, has established a home building manual. So in that home building manual, we've got a stack of standards that are related to National Building Regulation, your Act 103. So those standards that we pack within the home building manuals give reference to the parameters that you need to comply with within the housing industry. And then the other one that can be used is the performance-based, of which is the Agrima certification or the rational assessment. So in terms of the habitat, because South Africa is a member of the United Nations, so we are compelled to comply to the rules set by Habitat. So we dissected the habitability as one of the factors that we need to deal with when we do our housing. Now, in terms of technical compliance, when you do your IBTs, you are required either to use part of the standards as set by the South African Bureau of Standards in terms of your functional requirements, your performance requirements, and you are also compelled to comply to the deemed to satisfy rules. But as we know that IBTs mostly are built from unknown standards, then it means you've got to take those panels that you're designing for testing, of which that will be done at Agrima certification. Then you'll get the certificate of your panel, and in that certificate, what I want to mention is that not every panel tested is suitable for housing. To those that own Agrima certificate or building system, when you come to NHBRC, we accept the plan because it has been approved for municipality. We accept the certificate because it's been approved for by Agrima, but there is a portion where it tells us what that panel is suitable for. Because most of the panels are suitable for schools, for offices, are not suitable for housing. Hence you see most of the IBTs failing when people use them. I'd like to make an example to say a container is not a house, people start saying, why are you saying that? People don't live in containers. A container is not a house. Unless if you retrofit it, and then you do a technical assessment, a rational assessment, then you submit it to us, then we can approve it as a house. But buying a container and just putting it there, housing people, is illegal and unconstitutional. It needs to be fitted correctly. So at NHBRC, when you bring your system, we look into the system for compliance. We check if it complies with the regulations, then we can enroll it. If it's got AGRIMA certification, then we'll check the requirements to say this AGRIMA certification, is it valid? Because there's a validation date on the AGRIMA certification. Then after validation, we check the use. If that certificate is used for housing, it will write H3 or H4. If H3 or H4 is not on the certificate, we are going to return your system. We cannot enroll it as a home from NHBRC. You can use it with DET, Department of Education and Training. You can use it with Department of Health. But AGRIMA certificates specifically state the use of those AGRIMA certificates. So we look into those matters through this criteria. And the other thing that we do, we have so many IBTs, so we classify them. They have been classified from CSIR, from A up to G. We have the light steel, we've got the masonries, we've got heavyweight structures. So as I've seen a lot of guys exhibiting IBTs, we do have a class of which we use this class to check the performance of these systems in terms of the climatic conditions and other factors, your water penetration, and so on. So these are some of the types of IBTs that are in the market. So this is the list that we get from AGRIMA. They revise it annually. Then we'll have 6 dam-proofing systems that have been approved. You've got your 11 sanitation systems, 9 roofing systems, and your walling systems, we've got 177. So at NHBRC mostly, I don't say all the time, but mostly we're dealing with the walling system. There are other systems of sanitation, roof materials, because we had a company, AVG Light Steel, which provided us with 2 systems, I think in the past 3 years, whereby when we built, they were also giving us the sanitation system to deal with the issue of water. We're building a house in Okip in the Northern Cape, where everything is just dry. So that system worked very well, and it could withstand the conditions of that climate in the Northern Cape. So we look into the systems as we bring them to say, what does it bring? The other thing that we check also in terms of the IBT is the attributes to a home, to say what needs to go in order to deliver an adequate housing. So these are some of the things that we look into: accessibility, air purity, sustainability and contribution to sustainable development, durability. Those are the most important factors that we look into. Your fire safety, your water penetration, and so on. And one of the strategic contexts of NHBRC say, enroll, then we'll inspect. Because all houses in terms of the law needs to be enrolled and inspected, especially new houses. Then we have a protocol whereby when you enroll, we do the inspections, and until we give what we call a final unit report, which is used by the department to effect payments. So this also applies to the IBTs. So we have also what we call a condition assessment tool. The condition assessment tool helps us to assess IBTs based on how they function and where they are built. So it's a mathematical system, arithmetic system. The condition assessment tool is the tool that we use post-construction, not during construction. There is a tool that we use during construction, but performance of IBTs can only be monitored after you have constructed. So after construction, we have what we call the condition assessment tool. We're going to look what the house condition was between 0 and 5 years, between 5 and 10 years, 10 and 20 years. Then we can be able to say this system functions properly. Then what we did with the assessment tools, remember I said we have the house that we built outside the lab. So we went and make sure that we assess all the houses. As you can see in all the provinces, it's unfortunately I didn't put Northwest, but so far we do not have a failed house in Northwest. If I remember correctly, we've got, I think a kilometer from here, we have a house that we built, it's still standing, and in Madibeng, there's a presidential project of a house in Tlametsi that was built by AVG Lightsteel. They used, a 3-bedroom house, with a garage. So they showed us that their system can build any type of a house. It is still in good conditions. If you can check in Gauteng, we have assessed 11, 8 qualified, 3 failed. They fail not because they are not done correctly, because when they were tested, they passed. But due to the conditions that they subject under, sometimes it could be your foundation is wrong, or your roof has not been assembled correctly, it affects the structure, or the structure itself cannot withstand the climate. Then you start to have some cracks, you start to have some delamination, and you start to have, disposition of the panels. Then we check those things on regular basis. We check, we've got Limpopo, we've got Free State, Northern Cape, we've got Western Cape, especially Western Cape is building quite a lot of IBTs. So there are systems that are having some difficulties. Some of the system, according to our observation, system providers combine systems to build a house. You find that they're building a double story. On the bottom is a heavyweight system, and then on the top it's another lightweight system. But in terms of performance, you find that the light one or the heavy one in terms of moisture content and air penetration is misbehaving and affecting the lower one. We have the problem of condensation in Cape Town, where most of the houses, especially I saw the military veterans here. There's a project of military veterans in Cape Town where most of their houses were affected by moisture. So one of the things that we advise is that when you design your IBTs, take into cognizance their regulations, because some of the things is because of not complying to regulations in terms of your energy efficiency orientation. If you find that your house is orientated wrong, the sun is not coming enough into that unit, then you'll have problems. Because remember I said, IBTs are there to deal with the issues of energy efficiency mostly. So you find that they keep too much heat inside the house and it does not escape, or too much air leak. It's escaping from the house, making the house cold and failing. So we look into those things. These are some of the defects that you find. You've got your chemical defects, your mechanical defects, and your physical defects. These are not defects that are done, that you can, observe through poor workmanship. They can happen being affected by the climate. So you can find that there's delamination, there's freezing, there's thawing, so the system is not coping with the climate of that area. So you need to be careful as system providers when you, design your system, check the climate of South Africa. Get in touch with us, we'll be able to assist. We are working together with the CSIR to make sure that we solve this problem of energy efficiency. The other thing is that, as we currently know, this is the current map of which is changing. We have recorded 2 degrees more of heat in South Africa last year, of which we can see that, climate change is affecting us and is also affecting housing. So we're doing our thermal assessment in terms of designing all the structures that we're dealing with, trying to address the issue of energy. Now, there's one thing that I will need also to invite the MEC, because NHRC has went into the problem that we currently have of energy in the country and designed what they call a net zero house. We have built it in Eric Mlobi. It's built there. The house gives back energy that it absorbed during the day. So your annual consumption will be zero. What it gets and what it gives back balances. So in layman's terms is that as the sun rises up, that house captures the energy. And then during the night, when you close the windows and the doors, it gives back that energy so that you don't have to use heaters and so on. The house remain warm with that same comfortable temperature. So that house has been built. We've put instrument on it. We have not launched it. There it is at Eric Mlobi. By the way, Eric Mlobi is built in a township. We didn't build somewhere in a city. It's built in Soshanguve, where ordinary people can see these structures. It's in a township of Soshanguve, Block X. So all these houses that you see around are the ABTs that we have built within the center. So this one that you see is the net zero house. We built it was completed in March, end of March this year. We're still to launch the house. So this is one of its kind. It has not been built, as far as I know, in the country. It was a pilot project by the department. So the house is completed and will be launched very soon. Hopefully, the invitation will come to your office, and the community at large, you are invited. So Soshanguve is only 150 kilometers from here. So come and see this net zero is built on ABT, but what we used, we combined systems. We didn't use one system. We took light steel, we took steel frames, and tried to come up with a system that is extremely energy efficient, so that it will absorb that heat and not release it. So it's one of the exhibitions that we have, and all the IBT owners, you are welcome at our lab to come and see. We are also there to assist you in terms of compliance, especially if you want to be in the housing industry. You have to start with us, otherwise the project will be blocked at some point in terms of compliance. So you need to enroll the property, and it needs to be inspected. So this is the new climate map of South Africa, whereby along the coast, especially on the eastern side, we have 2 degrees heat. If you can see along the Richards Bay, it's more hot, and the entire country it's embraced by home heat. Although we have the cold one, which is the brown one, between Cape Town, parts of Bloemfontein, until up to Gauteng to Johannesburg. By the way, Pretoria and Johannesburg are not sharing the same climate. So hence we built the Eric Mlobi basically in Pretoria, of which represent most of the country in terms of the climate. So this is what we do at Eric Mlobi. So all system owners, I'll be waiting for you with those pledged houses so that I can assist with enrollment and to make sure that those that will be receiving those houses are protected, have the warranty from those donors. So this is all about our Eric Mlobi. The other thing that we have, we've got the analyzer. The analyzer we use is the one that I say, a house built in Cape Town, and the very same house you come and build in Soshanguve might not behave the same. It might fail because of the climate. So we use the analyzer. This is the map of the analyzer that tells you how will the house perform. So in terms of the zones, you can see we have almost like 7 zones. We used to have 6. Now we have an extra 7 zone. So this needs to be taken into cognizance to all the developers, because remember, we are having a problem of energy. So the Department of Human Settlement have already provided a solution through IBTs. So I want you to take your work or the efforts that we have put into IBTs very seriously, because they can be the solution to human settlement. As NHBRC, we are working tirelessly to make sure that we promote your systems. If you've got a system, if you want to donate, it's good that you can pledge here, but you can also go to any office in your province. We've got at least 2 offices whereby you can inform, say, I have a system, please come and inspect my system. We'll come and check your system. We'll tell you whether it complies or not. If it doesn't comply, we'll show you the means of compliance to your system, rather than developing a system and sitting with the system and waiting to be employed by the department or being given a project, because now there is a database that is being done in terms of these systems. We're collecting a database that we give to the department to say, these are the systems that you can use as the department. So be careful when you develop system, bring them forth so that we can put them in the database, and also coordinate with Agrima SA. If it doesn't have Agrima SA, bring the regional assessment. Remember I said the means of compliance into national building regulations is through your deemed to satisfy your standards. If you don't have standards, you can do a rational design. If you don't have a rational design, you can do your rational assessment or the performance-based. So most IBTs are performance-based. So they need to have an Agrima certification. But if you don't have an Agrima certification, you can just bring your rational assessment. We assess it through the panel of engineers and give it approval. So when we analyze, these are the things that we look into. Local labor forces, those things matter a lot. Durability, accessibility, acoustics, condensation, and fire. We look into those elements into your system and give it a rating. So this is just the map that shows where we have built these IBTs. And this brings me to the end of the work that we do at NHBRC under ABT. There's quite products that we deal with at NHBRC. You should remember that training at Mathamulobi is available. The training of IBTs. One of our priorities is that when you come with an IBT, be prepared to train the community, because you cannot implement an IBT without training the community. They will reject your system. They might, so you need to train, or also train the inspectors so that we can deal with the issues of quality and so on. So training is available, and the training is done free of charge. We do not charge in terms of training. We have training for all designations at Mathamulobi, women, youth, military vets, SMMEs. So all those designations can request training at Eremurlobi, and they will be able to train. We also train engineers. We also train inspectors, those who are from municipalities. We are currently on a program where we're training municipalities in terms of net zero, because we believe is one of the solutions to the country, and we build it so that it's affordable. We did not make it expensive. We used affordable material. Hence I said it's a hybrid system. So it's a combination of systems. So as an entrepreneur, you can enter into the market whereby you combine these systems to give a affordable housing. One thing is that most of system providers are not builders. So what we receive from CSIR. They are developers who develop systems, but they are not contractors. They just sell systems. So entrepreneurs have an opportunity to look into those systems, get trained, and become licensees. Because if you are not a licensee, we're not going to allow you to use the system, because the system owner needs to take responsibility. So those are the things that we deal with at NHBRC. You can contact your nearest office in your province. We have one here in Rustenburg, and Mafikeng, and in Klerksdorp in the northwest. And in every other provinces, we have at least 2 offices. In Gauteng, we've got Pretoria, and the head office in Sunning Hill. And then in Limpopo, I think we've got 4 there. We've got Limpopo at Polokwane, Varambat, I think Zanin and Musina, if I'm not mistaken. But every office, even here in Northwest, I think it's 3. We've got Mafikeng, ne? Yeah, we've got Mafikeng also. Northwest got 3. So we are accessible, and whenever called for inspection, for assistance, we are readily there to assist, especially in the rollout of the NHBRC. Thank you very much for your time, audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hartley. I think we now understand the enormous work that NHBRC does. If you have questions, please write them down. Keep them. We will open a session for questions and answers later. Okay. Thank you very much. We will now go back to the National Department of Human Settlement. Dr. J. Marimbe is online. We will connect in a short while to her. Dr. Marimbe, do you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Okay. She is online. Just pay attention for the National Department of Human Settlement. Dr. J. Marimbe is going to be presenting to us. Thank you.
About innovation, building technologies in the human settlement sector. It's always a privilege for us as the Human Settlement Department to share with the ladies. And the chairperson, the brief we were given was to bring you and the guests up to speed with where we are at in terms of need, norms and standards. Chair, over the last 2 years, we have seen to it that we go through the participation process to see that we upgrade norms and standards to ensure that they accommodate innovation of the technology. Chair, that's what I'm going to take you through today. The information was promotes facilitating access to adequate housing, the establishment of where we're coming from, and then take you through the importance of today's share, which is our second day of the program. Firstly, by the end of this presentation and that of my colleagues, I hope that we can begin to challenge change.
Of new things through innovation, Chair. Our bit is to focus on innovation, Chair, just to emphasize 4 points that I picked from one of our greatest philosophers, writers on innovation, Chair, just to excite ourselves today, is that nothing is impossible. As a human settlement sector, we can never surrender. We should not be afraid to fail, Chair, and there is no one way to solve a problem. Hence, we are here, Chair, to talk about that. The other 4 aspects, Chair, by the end of the conference, Chair, will also begin to unpack some of these things. How we begin to challenge the convention in innovation, to challenge our traditions in the human settlement sector, Chair. Think of things that have never was and to engage the unknown through new courage, Chair. This conference is one such conference. So, back to the norms and standards, Chair. The norms and standards are rooted in what we called our innovation framework that we developed about 3 years ago in conjunction with the Department of Science and Innovation, Chair, which was rooted on the programs in the Human Settlements Department, in which we rooted our activities as 6, Chair. Innovation Building Technologies was one of them, but we also had artificial intelligence, big data, and research and development, Chairperson. So, when we are looking at opportunities like this, the Northwest IBT conferences begin to say, Chair, where are opportunities for co-investment? As a human settlement sector, we've said we can upgrade our norms and standards, but we need to scratch for opportunities for co-investment with private sector, Chair. The other one is public partnerships, all aimed at how we can improve our spatial targeting for our human settlements projects, Chairperson. Through a conference like this, and as we go through the norms and standards, hopefully we can begin to see accountability through innovation, Chairperson. That's how, Chair, we link to our 4 pillars, to sustainable human settlements and quality of household life, and then that's how we consolidate. So, page by page, in terms of our norms and standards, Chair, what you see on the screen is to the norms and standards, Chairperson. We believe that the audience and yourself, Chairperson, will begin to appreciate the difference emphasis to performance makes to a policy document, Chair. The first one, Chair, is if we look at the structure, strength, and stability of a house, of a dwelling. Whether we're looking at resistance to rainwater, dam-proofing, fire protection, lighting, ventilation, and drainage, Chair, our argument as a Human Settlements Department is to say, now what we want to say is, we will grade the contractors and different companies who are bidding for work according to the performance of the material they're putting forward in terms of resistance, in terms of dam proofing, in terms of fire protection, in terms of drainage, Chair. No matter what you bring to the market, as long as it's coming to the human settlement sector under state funding, Chairperson, we're saying we are going to mark you against performance, Chair. Next. If we look at the 40 square meter house, Chair, the issue of funding has been big. Yes, we are engaging the National Treasury to see how we can do this. But at the moment, Chairperson, we are saying that we are limited by the current quantum. And Chair, if we're serious about innovation, we should be in a position where we can say that through innovation, we can work within the budget, Chairperson. Let's look at site preparation, Chair. In terms of site preparation, we're saying the performance of the finished ground levels must direct water away from the building. This means, Chairperson, no matter what innovation a contractor or company brings to the table, what we're saying is that it's the performance at which your material can actually channel water away from the house or from the site. Cement, chairperson, same thing. It's the performance of the cement, irrespective of what innovation you bring forward. It's a performance of the design of your foundation, chairperson, irrespective of the type of design you bring to the table, chair. It's the performance of the 140 millimeter cement masonry, chair, in terms of the substructure rather. And even when we come to filling, we're saying it's the performance of the filling, chair. Previously, we had so many contractors and companies coming forward to say, we're coming up with this new innovation, we're coming up with this new idea in the market. And we said, okay, let's engage. But Chair, we've realized that unless we switch to performance, Chair, we're not going to crack this code for our sector in innovation. Therefore, that's why we're switching to emphasize that, Chair, it's about the performance of the filling in which the filling should be able to stand weather and changes and soil conditions, Chair. Floor slab. Same thing, Chairperson. We argue that any floor of any building that's presented for government, it should be able to be tested against the performance of that floor slab, the water resistance, the ventilation, the moisture present, the steel, and the power acoustics, drying irrespective of whether you're saying it's a panel, it's a brick, it's so whatever, as long as we argue that we're going to look at the performance of that wall, irrespective of what you put forward. So different companies can come forward with panels, with some are void, some are poly.
Okay. Dr. Mirembe could not be here physically. She has commitments, you know. working mothers understand. When you have young ones, you have to juggle between looking after them and also doing work. So she will be on standby for questions later. But what I was saying is that she was addressing us on norms and standards for IBT or ABT, depending on whether you call it alternative building technology or innovative building technology, based on performance of materials, performance of cement, looking at the substructure, the filling, the floor slab, water resistance, fire resistance, looking at the acoustic performance of the wall, the drying capabilities, looking at the structural strength and insulation of this ABT. As we get into this environment, we need to be careful and ensure that we conform to the norms and standards that are set by our national department. Let me continue instead of taking questions and answers now, because Dr. Mahachi is here and ready. I will give him an opportunity. Due to unforeseen circumstances, he got the notification quite late, but his presentation was supposed to have been taken with those that were focusing on ABT yesterday. He is here from the University of Johannesburg to address us on the 3D design house. Is it 3D printed house? You see, when we get into the 5th and 6th industrial revolution, we are ready to print houses. I don't know how, but he will explain to us. Let me also, as he comes to the podium, declare that I've known him for almost 2 decades. We worked together at NHBRC some years back, and here we are meeting again in the same built environment. Welcome, Dr. Mahachi.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here, and thank you, Komoso, for inviting me. Colleagues, my name is Jeffrey Mahachi. I'm from the University of Johannesburg, and I have the pleasure of trying to share with you construction 3D printing. And I hope that by the end of the day, we will have a common understanding of a technology that will probably revolutionize the way in which we build and construct houses. Sorry. Is it working? Okay. I'm just waiting for the technology there. Yeah, sure. All right, so my presentation, I'm going to cover a few aspects. I know that the previous presenters, they've talked about some of the challenges within the property market, but I'm just going to talk about it in the context of trying